December 5th, 2023, Tuesday from Days. The British Deputy Prime Minister made an interesting statement, causing millions of people around the world to worry. It was a warning to be prepared for a massive power outage that will occur. Now, out of the blue, what was that? Why was he warning the people of England to prepare urgently? And the other thing everyone is wondering is what could have caused this? Imagine that electricity is the basic power that forms the backbone of our entire civilization today. And the man at the top of one of the most powerful countries in the world is warning us about its absence. The reason for this event, which will radically affect our life on the planet, is a celestial body that, unfortunately, our strength will never be enough. It is our sun that gives life to our world personally. Welcome to Mystic Space TV. Pagan peoples who lived in Northern Europe longer ago than any civilization we know dance in harmony around the fire in the dark of night and celebrate a sacred moment, an ancient rite in which the spirits of nature are believed to be renewed. But those who thought what could have been the factor that led them to believe this, all they had to do was look up at the sky and see this magnificent view. Isn't it fascinating? A colorful generation dancing in the sky. No one knows how it was formed, where it came from, but it is so beautiful and divine that they associate it with the spirits of nature and feel sanctity. In fact, their approach is not so wrong for ancient people, because the source of these lights is none other than our sun, which has been worshipped as a deity for centuries and then used to symbolize the main creator. High-energy particles from the sun hit the upper layers of the atmosphere, thanks to the magnetic field of our planet, and stimulate the gases contained in that layer with their energy. This event causes the gas to switch to a high energy level and emit photons, causing it to switch back to a low energy. These emitted photons also create these wonderful colors that you are seeing right now. For example, if they interact with oxygen, they appear red or green, while when they interact with nitrogen, they appear blue or purple. Isn't the scientific explanation extremely simple? Here, thousands of years ago, people did not know this, but they thought it was a sign from the gods, supernatural phenomena such as spirits visiting the world. Yes, maybe the aurora phenomenon is not a supernatural phenomenon, but it is definitely an extraordinary thing for those who watch it. But although this beauty may seem like a peaceful sight to a person, in fact, the facts are exactly the opposite. Because when you see this view, know that our world is trying to protect us with all its might from a destructive force, and if the planet loses this war, it means the end of our civilization as we know it, and even of all living things on Earth. 1 September 1859, England. British astronomers Richard Christopher Carrington and Richard Hodgson, while continuing their observations on the sun, find that large spots are forming on the surface of the star, and in quite a large amount. The phenomenon of black spots on the surface of the sun are actually regions where the general magnetic activity on the surface of the sun is intense. There may be people who don't know now. Let me give you some information for them first. Our sun is a plasma structure composed entirely of gases. In other words, it does not have a hard surface. At high temperatures, layered decays of gases are held together and compressed by an extraordinary gravitational force. In this way, the reaction we know as fusion occurs, and the sun produces an extraordinary level of energy and heat by combining light gases and turning them into heavier ones. Because of the complex movements of these gases, there is no single magnetic field in the sun as large as that of our Earth. There are thousands of magnetic fields that form and disappear instantly, and these sunspots are also the regions where those overlapping irregular magnetic fields make anomalies. Usually, these large regions also shoot out large bursts of energy into space at high speeds. This is exactly what happened in 1859. When our astronomers turn their telescopes to the sun, they see that the sun also turns these dark spots to the Earth, and then suddenly what happened happens. A giant coronal mass ejection, that is, a coronal mass ejection, breaks off from the surface of the sun into space at an incredible speed. The distance of our planet to our star is 150 million kilometers, and usually these mass pulses travel around the Earth in a few days depending on their speed. But this one was very different. The giant flare had already reached the Earth at an inconceivable speed in just 17.6 hours. And in the face of this great force, it was impossible for the magnetic field shield of our small world to withstand. We normally see auroras at the northern and southern ends of the Earth. This is a sign that the shield is working properly. Because of the round shape of the Earth, magnetic waves naturally direct particles around the pole, causing them to interact with the atmosphere there. But this time the pulse was so strong that it was observed even in the Caribbean islands, which are almost in the equatorial region of the world. So the magnetic field had been knocked out. Today we have done computer modeling of this effect. Normally, in a standard coronary mass pulse, the Earth's magnetic field reacts in this way and protects us. But what happened in the Carrington incident was like this. The intensity of the collision was so great that the atmosphere, filled with supercharged particles, began to glow like a fluorescent lamp. When the incident happened, the gold miners working in the Rocky Mountains of America thought it was morning because of the light emitted after the incident. Woke up, had their breakfast, and went to work in the mine. In northwestern Europe, people have become able to read their newspapers comfortably in the evening. The effects of the event have been seen and recorded even in Japan, China, and Cambodia in the East. Either they experienced an interesting sight. If there are those of you who think that this is the most that can happen, they are extremely mistaken. Due to the fact that the magnetic field is greatly exceeded, extremely energetic charged particles begin to rain down on the Earth, and what happens, happens. At that time, electricity was a newly spreading technology, and the most advanced thing in the world was the telegraph infrastructure. Between September 1 and December 2, when the Earth was under bombardment, the planet-wide telegraph instruments began to burn and explode. Flashes began to form on the electrical cables, and the lines began to scorch. Even if we were urgently ordered to shut down all electrical and telegraph infrastructure in the world, we were not fast enough, and a lot of electronic equipment that was turned on in those 2 days was completely burned out. The atmosphere was so electrically charged that the instruments continued to work for a while, even if they were unplugged. Something that Nikola Tesla dreamed of, nature had created by itself. Free energy was circulating wirelessly all over the world, but the only difference was this power balance, and it burned the equipment that came in front of it. After 2 days of chaos under the red-covered sky, as a result of the interaction of particles with the atmosphere, the magnetic field regains its strength and our Earth is balanced. At that time, the electronic infrastructure suffered a serious injury relative to its size, but as I said just now, it was quick to repair because it had a very limited prevalence. But this incident very painfully shows the whole world the following truth. Our sun, which has been giving life to our Earth for billions of years, has the power to send us back to the cave age at any moment, and there is nothing we can do about it. This painful truth leads us once again to the statement made by the British Prime Minister. Because the world is once again facing a similar event to the one that took place in 1859, and also our entire technological infrastructure, which is in danger this time. Mega coronal mass ejections like the one in the Carrington incident are actually nothing to our world. As a result of our deep drilling at the poles, we found that the ice fragments we analyzed decayed between 12,000 and 11,000 years BC. Yes, the period we know as the deluge. There was a gigantic explosion, and between 5,000 and 7,000 years BC, solar storms hit the Earth intensely. And it's not just those either. Similarly, big events, of course, not like that flood period, because it was a really unusual event. We realized that it also happened in the 900th year after BC by studying the anomalies in the rings of trees. In other words, our world is in decadent periods, but we often experience such events. But there has been a huge change between those days and these days. Humanity discovered electricity and created technology. There is a simple thing that electrically charged particles in solar storms are looking for: conductive substances. This is naturally a rule of physics, of course. And what are the four sides of our world covered with right now? With copper electrical cables millions of kilometers long, that is the size of the Carrington Event, or even a larger coronary mass atom explosion like the last warning, you will not find them in any motion picture where they will happen if they hit the Earth. Because the unprotected infrastructure will be loaded with excessive energy, all those grid-connected devices, transformers will start to burn and explode. The ionosphere is so intensely charged with electricity that you begin to hear only interference in radio broadcasts. The radio communication infrastructure, which operates independently of satellites, becomes unusable due to excessive interference. Radar systems crash, and that means all airway systems shut down, which should be it. Because when you get this ejection, if you are on a plane, you get all the radiation you will get in a year or two in just a few hours, because you are moving in the upper and less sheltered layers of the atmosphere. And this causes very serious health problems and even cancer to a large extent. Let those who say alas stop yet. The disaster has just begun. There are about 8,000 active satellites orbiting our Earth right now, and thanks to these satellites, our modern communication technology is working, from the internet to the phone infrastructure. And the ones that will be most severely affected by such an event are our satellites that are almost orbiting. All the circuits of thousands of them instantly burn out and the satellites become unusable. Think about the impact this will have. Almost all communication systems will crash. Ships and cargo planes, which are the backbone of global supply chains, become unable to move both because communication has collapsed and because GPS data from satellites has collapsed, which instantly triggers a food crisis. Is it over? Of course not. The final blow is coming now. The ionosphere, which has been subjected to intense energy for several days, has now become incredibly charged, and the Earth's magnetic field has also become elongated as it stretches out into space like a nervous whip, until, of course, it finally ruptured extremely hard and sent all the accumulated energy to Earth. This is the final blow. After this event, not only the cables and the devices connected to it, but also all electronic devices on both the infrastructure and the superstructure may be damaged according to the accumulated energy. The pumps that supply water to cities, generators, your home radio, your phone, everything goes dark, and contrary to what you think, this is not a simple power outage. According to the latest research, it takes 10 to 15 years for the world's global electricity infrastructure to become obsolete after such an event. Of course, this will be faster in developed countries, but even in them, the projected interruption cycle is being analyzed to be at least months. Of course, is this just infrastructure repair? Besides, if you take into account the electronic devices, planes, cars, phones, and satellites that are garbage, imagine how long it will take humanity to become old again and what will become of our electronic infrastructure, which is completely connected to digital, such as the banking system, at this time. Currently, more than 80% of the money in the world is digital. So in reality, there is not even such a physical money. What do you think your money will be without electricity? I think you have understood. In the event of such an event, we are not talking about a humanity that will rise up again in 5 or 10 years. Because if this event really happens and we are caught unprepared, there will be no turning back. The end of civilization as we know it will come. July 11th, 12 December, there may be some among you who think that these are very low probabilities or extreme claims. But 11 years ago, in the year of July 2012, the largest megatachronous spherical mass pulse that we have detected in the last century passed the Earth in just 9 days. It has been calculated that if it hits us, at best, 2 billion people will be without electricity for months. Can you imagine? 2 billion people are hungry, thirsty, without electricity. 8 million people came to the country with all the opportunities, and what have we become? No power and no economy can stand in the way of 2 billion people moving to survive. And the world survived this destruction by a margin of only 9 days, purely by chance. So let's go back to the incident at the beginning of the video. Why did the British Deputy Prime Minister say that we have changed our expectation of a big explosion from 2025 to 2024? What does this mean? Our sun has 11-year natural cycles, solar minimum and solar maximum cycles. For example, the previous solar maximum period, that is, the period when the sun's surface moved and the shots multiplied, was 2014 years, and the next one will peak at 2025. But recently, the sun has already started making solar maximum movements faster than expected. One of the worst of these is currently formed on the surface of the sun in such a way that it covers an area the size of 60 Earths. This is the giant stain you see. It's really an anomaly that's abnormal in size and couldn't be made sense to form when there was still a year before the solar maximum. If the giant mass pulses that can occur after a speck of this size coincide with the Earth, unfortunately, you will have watched everything I have just described in the video from the front row. And after all these events, has humanity taken any measures against this situation? Fortunately, the answer to this question is yes. In the 2006 years, NASA sent the Solar Activity Monitoring and Detection Satellite, which it called STEREO, into space, and the satellite is constantly monitoring solar activity. In addition, another satellite called AIDS is constantly studying the intersection of the sun's and Earth's magnetic fields, alerting us to the moment when there is a Carrington October-style risk. Of course, do not immediately breathe a sigh of relief. The satellite's window to warn us is only 30 minutes to an hour ago. So in the opposite case, we will have no more than an hour to unplug the entire world, land all the planes in the air, put every working satellite into protection mode. After that, the only thing we can do will be to wait. In this way, it was planned to at least prevent a complete infrastructure collapse and minimize the damage. But we still don't know exactly how effective even these measures will be, or how much damage the infrastructure and superstructure will suffer, even though it is closed after an event of that magnitude. Maybe we need to be without electricity for a few weeks or months, but compared to a decade of darkness, I think this is something that everyone can happily afford. In short, solar flares will continue to exist as one of the greatest dangers for humanity as the sun continues to rotate there yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But at least we are taking precautions against this danger as much as we can by constantly monitoring the sun with our technology. You can also take precautions on your own by individually keeping some candles in your home, taking power banks that charge with solar energy, searchlights, backing up some canned food just in case. I can't say go build a shelter under your house, but we are still a country of earthquakes, both against the sun. Against that risk, such things should always be at hand. After all, the next 2 years are the solar maximum period, just in case. But no matter how many individual and national measures we take, the celestial body we are talking about is the sun. That is, a star with a 0.3 million times the size of the Earth's volume, which produces 630,000 times more energy every second than the energy consumed by the entire Earth for a year. When we think about this, maybe we can take small measures against coronary mass ejections. But if one day an event happens, just like in the 12,000 years BC, then I don't want to think about what will be left of us. Humanity experienced that indescribable destruction once, and the civilizations before the deluge, as we know them, were wiped out. I hope the next one will never find the world. Otherwise, in the future, those who remain on the planet will also start talking about ancient civilizations for us. If a larger coronasphere mass ejection event occurs, then there will be nothing left on the Earth's surface to tell our story or to show that there was once life on this planet. The magnetic field completely disintegrates. Our atmosphere is destroyed by the solar winds, and everything on the surface of the planet is scorched and destroyed. In the end, all that remains is a lifeless piece of rock. As I said, although the sun is the basis of life on this planet, it contains the potential to turn it into a dead rock in an instant. Thank you all for watching the video. It was an issue that was on the agenda. I wanted to address information pollution without multiplying. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and share videos with your surroundings to continue this kind of content. I'm Mystic Space TV. Goodbye to see you in new videos.